Fortnite has a storyline, and it started out really confusing and random, but over time it actually got pretty cohesive and interesting. Unfortunately, along the line they made a crucial mistake that messed up everything, but I'll get to that later. What I want to do is offer up an objective view on the storyline. Was the Fortnite storyline good, or was I just 12 years old? Season 0. There's nothing integral to the lore here other than the creation of the island, and it's important that you know that the physical island of Fortnite is what the storyline all revolves around. Because of this, for each season I'm going to talk about the lore and the map changes. The first iteration of the map included Pleasant Park, Anarchy Acres, Loot Lake, Greasy Grove, Wailing Woods, Retail Row, Lonely Lodge, Flush Factory, Fatal Fields, and Moisty Mire. Dusty Depot, Tomato Town, and Salty Springs were also here, but they didn't get official names until the start of the first season. Season 1 was basically exactly the same as Season 0. Not all of the locations added in Season 2 were there at the start of the season, like Tilted Towers, which was added in a mid-season update. Nevertheless, the locations added in the season were Junk Junction, Haunted Hills, Snobby Shores, Shifty Shafts, and Tilted Towers. Season 2 also introduced different biomes, with the western side being this dark forest biome, Anarchy Acres being in some sort of dry biome, and Moisty Mire obviously being in a swamp biome. Season 3 brought with it one new location, that being Lucky Landing. Season 3 was also the beginning of the Fortnite storyline. A big blue meteor appeared in the sky and got closer throughout the course of the season. During the last few days of the season, when the meteor was at its closest, small meteor showers began raining down on players. Season 4 started with the meteor falling on Dusty Depot, leaving a huge crater in its wake. This changed Dusty Depot's name to Dusty Divot. Season 4 also introduced Risky Reels, which we saw in the launch trailer. The people on the island built a lab inside of the divot to research the meteor, and eventually it cracks open, releasing the Visitor. He is the first important canonical character. Season 4 is where Fortnite separated itself from other video games, with its introduction of its first live event, where players all around the world queued up at the same time to see what Epic had in store for them. The Visitor built a rocket to presumably escape from the island. It shot up into the sky and then came crashing down onto Tilted Towers, but right before it hits Tilted, it disappears into a rift and reappears at the other side of the map. The rocket flies around and blasts off into the stars, leaving a massive crack in the sky. Season 5 released on July 12th, which is also my birthday. It began with Rifts teleporting a giant desert right on top of Moisty Mire. With the giant desert, we got Paradise Palms. Some of the Rifts teleported things from in-game into real life, like the Durburger head, but this was more for marketing rather than actually being a part of the lore. Not much happened with the story this season. Lightning strikes in the desert and a giant cube appears. The Fortnite community decided to name this cube Kevin, and Kevin rolls all around the map, leaving some runes behind him, and he eventually arrives at Loot Lake. Kevin sinks into the lake and it turns into a giant bouncy house. This is technically the live event of this season, although it really wasn't advertised as one. Season 6 is where the storyline starts to get a little bit more intriguing. Kevin rises out of Loot Lake and he becomes a floating island, and in the middle of the lake under him there was this mysterious vortex with glowing light that you couldn't enter. Season 6 didn't bring any new locations, but it changed Loot Lake into Leaky Lake and Tomato Town turned into Tomato Temple. In the live event, Kevin just explodes and we are sent to this unknown dimension called the In-Between. We don't really know much about this place, but we float around, touch a butterfly, and get teleported back to the island. When we arrive When we arrive back to the map, Kevin and the floating island's remains are scattered all around Loot Lake. Season 7 is when I started playing Fortnite. The arrival of a giant iceberg brought 3 new locations, which were Frosty Flights, Polar Peak, and Happy Hamlet. Leaky Lake turned back into Loot Lake, and Greasy Grove was completely covered in ice. The snow at Polar Peak melted throughout the season, and the Ice King, who is the king of Polar Peak, had imprisoned this guy in the dungeons of his castle. After the prisoner escaped, the Ice King unleashed a giant ice storm onto the island, completely covering it in snow. Unfortunately, the white map was short-lived and all the snow quickly melted away. In Season 7, Fortnite introduced the block, which replaced risky reels. This is not related to the storyline. The block was a way for creators to create their own locations to add into Fortnite, which didn't go so well. Towards the end of the season, the greenery in the top right of the map started wilting away, and many fault lines started spreading around, hinting towards the next season. Now you may be starting to notice that nothing in this storyline makes sense. That's because of two reasons. Number one, the line between what is part of the storyline and what is a new addition to a season is very blurry. And two, Fortnite was very much a new game at this point, and there was not a clear direction that the storyline was going. Season 8 introduced a jungle biome in the top right, replacing Lazy Links with Lazy Lagoon and Wailing Woods with Sunny Steps. Most notably, we saw the introduction of the volcano. The block was also moved to the northwest side of the map. So, the people who studied the meteor in Season 4 were now suspicious of Loot Lake. They had a few excavation sites and then dug in the middle of Loot Lake and found a massive vault. This vault had 5 keys that floated around the map, sank into place around the vault, and kicked off this season's live event. The vault opens, and we are sent back to the in-between, but this time it looks a little different. There is this mysterious glowing blue orb, a desk, and 6 different pillars showing different items in the game that had been vaulted. Now, the mysterious orb is called the 0 point. I don't know if this was revealed in the event, but that's what this is. Players chose a weapon to unvault by hitting the pillars with their pickaxes until the progress bar reached the top. Once this happened, the 0 point floated us back out of the vault where the volcano is erupting. It explodes and hits Retail Row, Polar Peak, and Tilted Towers. Season 9 fast-forwarded a few years into the future. Tilted Towers and Retail Row had been rebuilt, but now they were futuristic and called Neo-Tilted and Mega Mall. The volcano was now an official POI, and its name was Pressure Plant. Polar Peak, which had been hit by the volcano, was starting to crack, and we saw a monster eye looking through the ice. The monster escaped from Polar Peak in the middle of the season. We see little clues all around the island that the monster is going to come back, so we start preparing for it. Singularity, whose mask we saw during Season 8's live event, started construction on a mech. She enlisted help from the Paradigm, who we don't really properly meet here. The monster returned to the island in pursuit of the 0 point. Singularity and the Paradigm didn't like that, so they attacked him, and they used the power of the 0 point to stab a sword through his skull. The mech does a little dance, and it flies off into space. Season 10 was a big mess. The 0 point had exploded after the battle between the mech and the monster, and it's messing with how time works on the island. There were a ton of map changes throughout the season because of the 0 point. Neo-Tilted turned into Tilted Town, and then Gotham City. Retail Row became infected with zombies, the ice around Greasy Grove disappeared, and there were scheduled intervals of dancing. Paradise Palms merged with Moisty Mire to create Moisty Palms. How original. Dusty Divot turned back into Dusty Depot, with a meteor that hit it being suspended in air, and we got a brand new location called Starry Suburbs. Remember when the Visitor escaped from the meteor in Season 4? This time, it was the scientist who escaped, and he was building another rocket. He reveals that he is part of a group known as the 7.
What the 7 of us are attempting is very risky. I suspect they are not the only ones watching, but it must be done or we lose the bridge forever. When I hear this again, will it help me remember? Or once looped, will I be just as muted as the others? What I didn't factor was that the only way to trigger the device was from within the loop itself. Thus this hasty and primitive recording. And why now I find myself looped.
So, who is a part of the 7? Right now, it's the Visitor, the Paradigm, and the Scientist. Also, while editing this video, I've had more and more things I've wanted to say, so I might pop back in a few times. In the live event, there are 6 rockets that appear, and they use momentum to launch the suspended meteor into the 0 point. This causes a massive explosion, which implodes the map and everything gets sucked into a black hole. In the 2 days that the Fortnite servers were down and everyone and their mom was wondering what was happening to Fortnite, we received a few messages from the scientists. I'll put the messages right here. I'm not going to read them because they're kind of boring, but hey, if you want to read them, more power to you. Chapter 2 introduced an entirely new map, including some new locations and some returning locations. For returning locations, we got Salty Springs, Pleasant Park, and Retail Row. The new locations included Craggy Cliffs, Steamy Stacks, Sweaty Sands, Holly Hedges, Slurpy Swamp, Weeping Woods, Frenzy Farm, Dirty Docks, Lazy Lake, and Misty Meadows. The map also introduced a mini Risky Reels that wouldn't get an official name until the next season. There is zero new lore here other than the crash site where the plane landed. Canonically, this is how we arrived on this new map, but that doesn't make sense because this map spawned out of a black hole. The best season of Fortnite, Chapter 2 Season 2, brought with it 5 new locations, each with their own bosses and their own respective mythic weapons. These locations were the Shark, the Yacht, the Rig, the Grotto, and the Agency. The only boss that I'll mention here is Midas because he's the only one that really matters. Throughout the season, these different bosses fight each other. They were either on Team Ghost or Team Shadow, but the big thing here is Midas and his device. He built this device in the middle of the Agency and used the energy of the 0 point to fight against the storm. The device seems to work and the storm has disappeared until we are teleported to this mysterious office.
No, everything is not stable over here. We are Janice, dial the resonance actuator to 7.2. Now, please, yes, right now.
I'm on it.
Wait, hold on. It's not just a storm. What does that mean? Must be connected to the loop. There's no way we could have predicted that it would react this way.
I'll just mention it here for transparency. The office is called the Bridge. We get teleported back to the map where the storm is a massive tsunami, and then we are sent back to the bridge.
And that worked? How long do you think it'll hold? Good. Everything is, starting to stabilize here. Nothing seems to be... What the... How are you even... Wait. Can you hear me?
In my opinion, this is where Fortnite's storyline truly kicked off. Chapter 2 Season 3 started with a tsunami wall crashing down onto the map and flooding the majority of it. We got 5 new locations here: the Fortilla, Rickety Rig, Caddy Corner, and the Authority. Coral Castle, the worst location ever, was added mid-season. All of the boss locations from Season 2 were removed. The boss in the Authority is Jules, and she is the daughter of Midas. Oh, and by the way, in the intro trailer for this season, Midas is eaten by a shark, so he's dead. Throughout the season, the water levels drop back to normal, and that's pretty much it. Nothing really happens here. Chapter 2 Season 4 was all about Marvel. Pleasant Park turned into Doom's Domain, and in the middle of the season, we got a giant slab of New York added to the map, which held Stark Industries. The Authority turned into the ruins for this year's Halloween event, and we lost Rickety Rig. When the black hole event happened, it released a lot of energy into space, and Galactus, who is a big guy from Marvel who eats planets, felt this energy and started heading over to the Fortnite island. Thor came along and warned us that Galactus was coming, and so we started to prepare to fight him. Over the course of the season, Galactus gets closer and closer, eventually leading up to Season 4's live event. Galactus comes and tries to eat the 0 point. As he does this, we are once again sent back to the in-between, which was featured in Season 6 and 8's live events. Iron Man creates a billion battle buses equipped with bombs, and we shove them down Galactus' throat and blow him up. Season 4 is also the season where Fortnite decided to expand its lore into comics, and I don't have the money, nor do I care enough to read these comics or go into the lore here. I'm only going to talk about the lore that takes place in trailers and in game, and I'm just going to completely ignore all the lore that happens in the comics. Chapter 2 Season 5. I guess I'll just start by showing the intro trailer for this season.
They did it! We're still here!
Yeah, but the 0 point is exposed. You have to go in.
Oh, come on. Last thing we need is another snapshot of me inside the loop.
No, the last thing we need is someone escaping the loop. You need to get in there and fix it.
Understood, ma'am. I'm on it.
And do not draw the attention of the 7. Jones, are you there?
Alright, I just need to stabilize the 0 point and reseal the bridge, but not let anyone escape. Easy, right?
The 0 point is now exposed after the battle with Galactus. Jonesy travels to our world. His mission is to bring a ton of hunters to the loop while the IO tries to fix the 0 point. And the IO is the Imagined Order. This is the organization Jonesy is working for, and their mission is to keep people inside of the loop. Dr. Sloan is the woman Jonesy was just talking to. Also, the loop is the game of Fortnite. It's called a loop because every 22 minutes the storm closes in and eventually a new game starts, and it just repeats this over and over and over again. The 0 point is messing with time again. It spawns in this giant desert in the middle of the map, and Tilted Towers merges with Salty Springs to create Salty Towers. We get Colossal Coliseum, Stealthy Stronghold, and Hunter's Haven. The Fortilla is also removed. Chapter 2 Season 6 starts out a little bit differently with a single-player interactive live event where the 0 point is about to explode. Jonesy turns his back on the IO and calls for help from the 7. The Foundation arrives and he's about to beat the shit out of Jonesy until Jonesy offers him something in exchange for his help.
Geno! I can get you to Geno.
And the sisters?
I can get you all of them. But I need your help to fix that.
You have a deal. For now.
Oh, that's very reassuring.
The Foundation starts trying to fix the 0 point, but it starts blooming and creating all sorts of portals. We go around and shut down all the portals, but the 0 point starts going out of control. The Foundation has to seal himself inside the 0 point to stop it from wiping out all of reality.
I will find you, and you will tell me everything.
You have my word!
Now we have 4 members of the 7. Season 6 introduced 7 total spires, probably in reference to the 7. The grass around the 0 point turned into some autumn sort of biome. For locations, we got Bony Burbs, which replaced Salty Towers, the Spire, and Colossal Crops, which replaced Colossal Coliseum. Hunter's Haven was also removed. I would also like to mention that this is one of the worst seasons of Fortnite ever. Chapter 2, Season 7 was alien themed. A giant UFO stole the 0 point. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not in the center anymore. A ton of mini UFOs appear all around the map, which abducted players throughout the match, and they were sent to this mini game inside of the mothership. So obviously, the Spire is gone. Dr. Sloan moved into Colossal Crops and turned it into Corny Complex. Sweaty Sands turns into Believer Beach, and for some reason they changed Slurpy Swamp to Sludgy Swamp. In the live event, Dr. Sloan enlists the help of us to take down the UFO mothership. Throughout the season, the aliens were stealing different parts of the island, but Dr. Sloan actually attached bombs to those parts of the island so we could blow up the UFO. When we get to the ship, Kevin the Cube appears, which means these aliens were in control of him all along. But then, out of nowhere, Dr. Sloan betrays us.
We are fighting a war in which we are hopelessly outgunned. I won't bring you home. Not if there is a chance that thing can make it back to the island. Over and out.
Now we are on the 7 side. We turn Kevin blue, which I think means we turn him good. He brings us up through this tube into this giant hallway where we see hundreds of other cubes appear. Then, all of the bombs explode, and some of the cubes in us fall back towards the island. Chapter 2 Season 8 launched with a ton of cubes all around the map. Corny Complex also turned into Corny Crops. They really couldn't settle on a name for it. This golden cube rolls around the map and activates all the other cubes. All of the cubes converge to the center of the island to create the convergence. Eventually, the corruption spreads all across the map and the convergence becomes the pyramid. The Cube Queen, the leader of the cubes and the UFOs, is planning on destroying a whole island. She is from the Last Reality. We see the Last Reality during the live event, and there's hundreds of UFOs like the one we destroyed last season, so Dr. Sloan was right. We were outgunned. Dr. Sloan was experimenting or interrogating Jonesy, but the Foundation comes to his rescue, who we found out is actually The Rock.
You just had to be the hero, Jones. You know what happens to heroes?
They, live to fight another day?
Not this time. Do it.
No, don't do it, don't.
This isn't personal, Jones. Although I do plan to enjoy it. Impossible. watched you die.
I got over it.
You came back for me.
You promised me Jeno.
Well, love you too, buddy.
The Foundation's plan is to bring us to the other side. He literally flips the entire map upside down, which takes out the Cube Queen and kicks off Chapter 3. One thing I forgot to mention was that in Chapter 2 Season 7, Fortnite released their Among Us game mode, which they called Fortnite Imposters. The map that they used for this was actually the bridge, which is the IO's headquarters. If you went into one of the rooms of the bridge, you could actually see that the Imagined Order was controlling Kevin with a crane arm. And this completely contradicts what we see in Chapter 2 Season 8. In Season 8, we see that the Cube Queen, the Herald of the Last Reality, is actually controlling Kevin the whole time, so now I don't know what to believe. I'm definitely looking too much into this, but I thought that was weird, and I thought it was important that you know that the bridge was actually a map you could play on. That was until they removed it. Okay, that's it. Back to the video. Chapter 3 brought back 2 locations and introduced 10 new ones. For our returning locations, we got Shifty Shafts and Greasy Grove. For our new locations, we got Logjam Lumberyard, Sleepy Sound, The Daily Bugle, Coney Crossroads, Camp Cuddle, Sanctuary, Rocky Reels, The Jonesies, Condo Canyon, and Chonkers Speedway. There's also 4 biomes on this map, those being grassland, snow, desert, and jungle. During a mid-season update, the snow on the map melted away, revealing that Tilted Towers was buried in the ice. Covert Cavern was introduced in this update as well. Somehow, Dr. Sloan was not killed through the flip and she drills right through the island. The 7 and the IO start preparing for war, and the scientist sends out messages asking for help from the Paradigm.
Paradigm, it's me. I'm guessing you heard what happened. Obviously, we had more ambitious goals than simply flipping the island. It will not surprise you to learn that you remain public enemy number 1 for the 7. The Imagined Order is playing with a fire that will consume every world we know and every world we've yet to discover. Everything, and I mean everything, depends on you now. All reality is yours to save. You know, that's it. Just all reality. You just need to come home.
If you're wondering why the 7 don't like the Paradigm anymore, it's cause she helped the Imagined Order build a mech to fight the monster back in Season 9. Now, I don't know how that makes her like an enemy of the 7, but it does, so. Chapter 3 Season 2 introduced 2 new locations, Synapse Station and the Fortress. Covert Cavern was changed to Command Cavern. In this season, we get introduced to the Origin, the Imagined, and the Order. And that is all of the members of the 7. Throughout the season, the 7 and the IO battled it out, and the territory owned by both the 7 and the IO constantly changed. The tides turn against the 7 when Jonesy gets some scary news.
We have very credible intel that one of the IO's doomsday devices is now in production.
The IO have built a collider in a new location called the Collider. This device is capable of detonating the 0 point and destroying everything in the loop. The 7 actually have a handy-dandy base on the moon, which they had rebuilt the mech from Season 9's live event. We take the mech, which is piloted by the Paradigm, to the island. We have a giant battle and take out all of the IO's forces on the way to the Collider. We then enter the Collider facility and run into Sloan. This doesn't last long as the Paradigm smashes her to bits. Then the Foundation and Jonesy find Jeno.
Who is that?
The 0 point is focused on Jeno. This is our best chance to find him.
Let's go!
We destroy the Collider and everyone is happy.
I'm beginning to think that maybe freeing the 0 point was a mistake.
Following the defeat of the IO, the island has an entire season dedicated to celebrating their victory. This is Chapter 3, Season 3. The 0 point is exposed once again, and it forms the reality tree. We have a new biome on the map, which I don't really know what to call it. It's some sort of bluish purplish thing. Reality Falls and Shuffled Shrines are the new locations in this season. Logjam Lumberyard was replaced with Logjam Lotus, which is sort of like the block. The POI swap between different structures each match. The Daily Bugle was replaced with Lazy Lagoon, and Command Cavern was replaced with Rave Cave. That's basically it for the season, and this is where the storyline practically halts because Donald Mustard, who was the lead developer behind the storyline, left Epic Games. This resulted in the storyline turning to shit. I truly believe that this is the worst thing that happened to Fortnite. Donald had given the storyline so much momentum, but when he left, it's as if they had just let go of the gas and let the storyline slow to a stop. And that's exactly what happened. We only have a little bit until they just completely axed the storyline. Chapter 3, Season 4. Out of nowhere, the Herald of the Last Reality came and attacked the island.
We've already lost so much of the island to that chrome.
I'm starting to think this may be a problem.
Get out of here! That's an order!
This isn't how it ends.
Aligning to reality. 6, 5, 9.
As the chrome spread across the island, the people on the island attached balloons to a ton of buildings. Some of them came together and made Flutter Barn. The Sanctuary was replaced with Herald Sanctum, and the weird reality biome got poisoned and turned into a weird autumn biome. We also hear a lot about the Nothing this season, but that plotline is never discussed further.
To continue past this point is to lose everything you knew and everything you were.
The rest of the map changes are so insignificant that I'm not even gonna bother to mention them. The POIs get attacked by the Chrome and have very slight name changes, like from Tilted Towers to Tainted Towers. And now it's time for the worst live event ever. Literally, the coolest part of this live event, the part where the Islanders fight against the Herald, is only given a minute-long cinematic. The map just blows up, and the rest of the 37-minute-long event is us doing side quests and combining parts of the island together with the help of the Paradigm. And that's the end of the chapter. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I actually do like Chapter 4's map. I also forgot to mention this, but anytime someone enters and leaves a loop, they leave behind a snapshot. That's why there's so many Jonesy skins. This is important because Geno left a snapshot called the Ageless. The Ageless is a young snapshot of Geno that created the Oathbound, which is the earliest version of the Imagined Order. But let's talk about the map. The Ice biome is part of Reality 659, which is where the Paradigm went to escape from the Chrome. We have the Oathbound's Ancient biome and a Grassy biome. All of the locations added in Chapter 4 are brand new. We have Breakwater Bay, the Citadel, where the Ageless lives, Anvil Square, Brutal Bastion, Lonely Labs, Shattered Slabs, Frenzy Fields, Faulty Splits, and Slappy Shores. Chapter 4 is also where Fortnite locked its storyline behind XP quests, so now you didn't know what was happening with the storyline unless if you actively played the game and did these redundant quests. The storyline this season is as follows. The Ageless makes a Rift Gate, which activates and sends us to... Chapter 4 Season 2 brought a new unknown biome from another world through the Rift Gate. We got Steamy Springs, Mega City, Kenjutsu Crossing, and Naughty Nets. We unfortunately lost Faulty Splits. In Chapter 4, Season 3, the surface of the island collapsed and revealed a jungle underneath. Sloane also just reappears, which is so annoying. This is the second time she's came back from the dead.
I think you know that it takes a little more than dropping a tank on me to take me out.
Sloane is good now, or I guess we aren't fighting her anymore. The jungle locations are Creaky Compound, which was another IO base, Rumble Ruins, and Shady Stilts. We lost Anvil Square. Sloane then predicts that an eclipse is coming.
The glyphs appear to be predicting an incoming eclipse. All readings indicate that's impossible. But me standing here, alive? That's an impossibility too.
This leads us into... Chapter 4, Season 4 introduces us to a time-traveling werewolf who steals different artifacts from different times in the past. His name is Cato Thorn. The Citadel is replaced with Eclipsed Estate, Lonely Labs is replaced with Sanguine Suites, and Relentless Retreat is added as well. Cato Thorn uses his time machine to take us back to...
Everything you do will ripple forward to this very moment. This might not even be the first time I've recorded this message. It occurs to me that I've never sent a message through time, so you might want to check back.
So basically, the time machine and Jonesy landed in Pleasant Park. Somehow, Thorn's time machine brought us back to Chapter 1, but in an alternate timeline. So now, everything has changed. Think about it like this. We went through Chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, but then we traveled back to Chapter 1, and in doing so, we created a separate version of Chapter 1 where Season OG takes place. Now, everything branches off of this second timeline, and Chapter 5 is kind of like the Chapter 2 of this new timeline. The events of the butterfly event never really happened, so Kevin is still floating above Loot Lake. Someone in this timeline started to prepare for the arrival of the scientist by turning Dusty Divot's diner into a rocket construction site. Seasons 7, 8, 9, and 10 also appear on the island, but everything is slightly off. Nothing is exactly how it was back in Chapter 1.
This is the first time in countless lifetimes that I don't know what happens next. We're both heading off into the unknown. I guess this is goodbye for this me and that you. But we'll meet again. Reality's not done with us yet. Keep the campfires burning, Jones. Wherever and whenever you go.
The construction of the rocket is completed, and we start off the Big Bang event. All that happened here was that the Seven used the meteor again to blow up the 0 point and make another black hole, but this time it created new galaxies and realities. It was basically a giant advert for Fortnite's new modes, Rocket Racing, Lego Fortnite, and Fortnite Festival. All of these modes suck because Fortnite decided to split their efforts into 4 when their own core game was already kind of declining. Chapter 5 has a ton of biomes, from different grassy biomes to a forest biome to a huge snow biome that unfortunately melted away into a tiny snow biome. Here's all the locations: Rebel's Roost, Lavish Lair, Classy Courts, Ritzy Rivera, Reckless Railways, Grand Glacier, Ruined Reels, Pleasant Piazza, Fencing Fields, Hazy Hillside, and Snooty Steps. This season has a conflict like between Ghost and Shadow in Chapter 2 Season 2, but this time it's between the Underground and the Society. During the end of the season, a giant hand appears, spawns Pandora's box, and sends us to... In Chapter 5 Season 2, all of the Greek gods come to Fortnite. We lost Ritzy Rivera and Hazy Hillside, but we got 2 new biomes and 4 new locations. These new locations included the Underworld, Grim Gate, Mount Olympus, and Brawler's Battleground. There was also this secret live event where the statue on Mount Olympus blew up Pandora's box. As of recording this video, we are still in Chapter 5 Season 3. Fencing Fields is replaced with the Nitrodrome, and yes, it's the Nitrodrome and not Nitrodome, but I thought this entire time that it was the Nitrodome. Snooty Steps became Sandy Steps, and we got Brutal Beachhead and Redline Rig as new locations. All of these new locations were added in a red desert biome. Since recording, some new things have been added in Season 3, like the Tony Stark beacons that we saw leading up to Chapter 2 Season 4, so maybe we're having another Marvel season. There's also the Wanderer, who is an NPC that when you get too close to it, it disappears. I don't really know if this has anything to do with lore, but I'll just leave that here. Fortnite has also released a new game mode since I've recorded this video. Now, I doubt it has anything to do with the lore, but if I talk about it, I might get more clicks and impressions because it's new and people are talking about it. If you don't know, Fortnite Reload is like a respawning game mode where if you get knocked, you can keep respawning until a certain point in the game where respawns are disabled and you're not able to respawn anymore. For locations in this map, we have Pleasant Park, Tilted Towers, Retail Row, Sandy Sheets, Snobby Shoals, Lone Lodge, Lil Loot Lake, Lazy Laps, and Dusty Docks. Like I said, this probably has nothing to do with the lore, but I figured I'd mention it. And yeah, that's the Fortnite storyline so far. I honestly thought the storyline all the way up until Chapter 3 Season 2 was really good, but after Donald Mustard left, nobody seemed to care enough to continue the storyline. Who is Geno? Why was the Imagined Order created? How did the Seven come to exist? All of these are questions that we will never get the answers to, unless if you read the comics, which I am not doing. So, to answer the question, is Fortnite's storyline actually good? It almost was. It was getting pretty cohesive and easy to follow, but they had to screw everything up and lock it behind comics and XP quests, which I still can't believe they did. It just sucks that they completely abandoned the storyline after Donald Mustard had left and no one bothered to pick up where he left off. But yeah, that's it. If you've liked this video, please consider subscribing. I'm not gonna make Fortnite storyline videos, but I'm throwing things at the wall and seeing what works. I could tell you to go and watch my other videos, but don't do that because they kinda suck. Okay, bye.